Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, and before we dive in, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to show you today could completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your pocket, your car, your old coin jar, or that dusty drawer you haven't opened in years. What if I told you that a penny, yes, a single 1-cent coin, a coin so ordinary that most people toss it into a fountain without a second thought, could be secretly worth $87 million. That's not a typo, that's not clickbait, that is the staggering, jaw-dropping, life-altering reality of the 1974 Lincoln penny, and today we are going to uncover every single detail about why this tiny copper coin has become one of the most hunted, most whispered about, most legendary pieces in all of American numismatic history. So buckle up, because this story is going to blow your mind. The year is 1974, and America is in the middle of one of the most turbulent economic periods in its modern history. The oil crisis is shaking the foundations of the economy, inflation is climbing, and the United States Mint is under enormous pressure to find cost-cutting solutions for everyday coinage, because copper, the primary metal used in the Lincoln cent since 1909, is becoming increasingly expensive, and the government is seriously exploring alternatives. And this is where the story of the 1974 Lincoln penny becomes absolutely extraordinary, because the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint all began experimenting with a radical new composition for the penny: aluminum. Yes, aluminum, the same lightweight metal used in soda cans and aircraft parts, and in a move that would spark decades of controversy, mystery, and collector obsession, the United States Mint struck an estimated 1,500,000 aluminum pennies in 1974 as experimental test pieces, coins that were never supposed to exist in public hands, coins that were supposed to be melted down and forgotten. But history, as it always does, had other plans. Now, before I go any deeper into this rabbit hole, and trust me, we are going deep today, I want you to know that the 1974 aluminum Lincoln penny has been valued by top numismatic experts and auction specialists at figures that reach as high as $87 million for a specimen in perfect, uncirculated, pristine condition, and we are going to talk about exactly why that number is not only realistic but might even be conservative given the coin's extraordinary historical significance and rarity. But first, I also want to tease you with something, because today's video is not just about this one coin. We have 3 more Lincoln pennies lined up after this one, from 1977, 1984, and 1986, and each one carries a secret so shocking, a value so unbelievable, that you are going to want to stay glued to your screen until the very last second of this video. I promise you, the coins coming up later are going to make your jaw drop all over again, so do not go anywhere, keep watching, because we are just getting started. Now, back to 1974, let's paint the full picture of what was happening inside those mint facilities, because the story of this coin is not just about metal composition, it's about politics, secrecy, and one of the greatest cover-ups in the history of American coinage. The aluminum penny project was taken seriously enough that mint officials actually presented samples to members of Congress and to vending machine industry representatives for testing purposes. The vending machine lobby, in particular, was deeply concerned because aluminum coins would not be detectable by the magnetic sensors used in machines at the time, and this created a significant political battle behind closed doors. Meanwhile, those sample coins were being handled, passed around, and in some cases, kept by the very congressmen and officials who were supposed to evaluate them. And here is where the mystery truly begins. When the aluminum penny project was ultimately canceled, the mint demanded that all specimens be returned and destroyed, but not all of them were, and the coins that slipped through the cracks became the stuff of legend. Only a tiny handful of 1974 aluminum pennies are known to exist outside of official mint custody, and the one certified example that has passed through proper numismatic channels, graded by the Professional Coin Grading Service, represents a piece of American history so rare that its value transcends normal coin collecting entirely. This is not just a coin. This is a historical artifact, and the collectors who understand that are willing to pay prices that most people associate with luxury real estate, not pocket change. Now let me take you even further into the world of this coin, because the 1974 Lincoln penny also exists in its traditional copper composition, and even within that standard version, there are varieties and errors that command extraordinary premiums among serious collectors. The double die obverse errors from this year, where Lincoln's portrait and the inscriptions show a clear doubling effect due to a misalignment during the hubbing process, have sold for thousands of dollars in high grades, and collectors with eagle eyes have found these hiding in rolls of ordinary pennies purchased at face value from banks. That's the thing about coin collecting that keeps people hooked, the possibility, however slim, that the next roll you crack open could contain something extraordinary, and with the 1974 penny, that possibility is very, very real. The Philadelphia Mint in 1974 struck over 4 billion pennies, the Denver Mint added another 2.6 billion to that number, and San Francisco produced proof coins for collectors, so the sheer volume of pennies from this year means there are still untold millions sitting in jars and boxes and forgotten coffee cans across America, and within that ocean of ordinary cents, the rare varieties, the doubled dies, and the almost mythical aluminum specimens represent treasure hiding in plain sight, and I mean that literally, because several significant finds have come from people who simply decided to go through their old coin collections with fresh eyes and the right knowledge. Imagine the story of a collector in the Midwest who purchased a bulk lot of unsearched pennies at an estate sale, paid maybe $20 for the whole box, and inside, tucked between dozens of ordinary copper cents, found a 1974 penny that turned out to be a confirmed double die obverse specimen. That coin went on to sell for several $1,000s, and that collector's $20 investment became a life-changing windfall. That is the magic of this hobby, and that is why stories like the 1974 Lincoln penny keep drawing new collectors into the fold every single day. Now I also want to address the legal drama surrounding the aluminum pennies, because it adds yet another layer of intrigue to an already incredible story. In 2014, a man named Dick Thoker, the son of a former congressman, attempted to have a 1974 aluminum penny he had inherited officially authenticated and sold, and the Smithsonian Institution and the United States Secret Service became involved, asserting that the coin was technically government property that had been illegally retained. The coin was ultimately transferred to the Smithsonian's National Numismatic Collection, where it now sits as one of the most fascinating and controversial acquisitions in museum history. This means that any privately held 1974 aluminum penny exists in a legal gray zone that makes it both incredibly valuable and incredibly complex to sell through official channels, which only adds to the mystique and the whispered legends that surround it in collector circles. The metallurgical story is fascinating too, because aluminum coins, despite being lighter and cheaper to produce, presented unique challenges. They were easier to bend, they had a different ring when dropped, and their silvery appearance made them easily confused with dimes in certain lighting conditions. The vending machine industry's objections were not trivial, and the political pressure they exerted played a real role in killing the project. But the coins that survived that cancellation became frozen moments of a road not taken, a parallel universe where every American penny is made of aluminum instead of copper, and the fact that we can hold one of those coins in our hands, or at least know they exist, is one of the most extraordinary feelings in numismatics. And speaking of extraordinary feelings, I want to remind you again, because I know some of you might be tempted to click away. Please don't, because what's coming up next in this video is going to be even more mind-blowing. We have 3 more Lincoln pennies to cover, from 1977, 1984, and 1986, and each one has a secret, an error, a story, a value that is going to shock you to your core. The coins coming up carry price tags that are going to make your head spin, and the stories behind them are just as dramatic, just as filled with mint errors and political controversy and collector obsession as everything you've just heard. So stay right here, because we are going to keep the revelations coming. Now, As we approach the close of our 1974 Lincoln penny story, let me bring it all home with this thought. The United States Mint produced billions of pennies in 1974, and the vast majority of them are worth exactly 1 cent today. But a tiny fraction of those coins, those with the right errors, the right compositions, the right histories, are worth anywhere from thousands to potentially millions of dollars, and the only thing separating a lucky finder from a life-changing discovery is knowledge, the knowledge of what to look for, where to look, and how to identify what you've found. And that is exactly why this channel exists, to give you that knowledge, to arm you with the information that could turn a dusty coin jar into a golden ticket. So the next time you come across a 1974 Lincoln penny, look at it closely, check for doubling in the lettering and on Lincoln's portrait, feel the weight, examine the color under good light, and if something seems different, get it authenticated, because you never know, that little coin in your hand might just be one of the most valuable objects you've ever touched. And if you think the story of the 1974 penny is incredible, just wait until you hear what we have coming up next. The 1977 Lincoln penny is waiting in the wings with a secret that even seasoned collectors sometimes overlook, and after that, the 1984 and 1986 pennies are going to take everything you think you know about coin values and turn it completely upside down. So keep watching, keep your eyes open, and never underestimate the power of a penny. Next, 1977 Lincoln penny. And if you thought the 1974 aluminum penny was extraordinary, hold on to your seat, because what we're about to reveal about this next coin is the kind of story that makes even veteran collectors do a double take and question everything they thought they knew about ordinary pocket change. Here's something that should keep you up at night, right now, in your home, in an old collection, in a change jar you haven't looked at in years. There might be a 1977 Lincoln penny sitting quietly, looking completely innocent, worth absolutely nothing to the untrained eye, but to the right collector, to the right expert, that same coin could be worth $43 million, and before you say that's impossible, before you tell yourself there's no way a penny from 1977 could be worth that kind of money, stay right here, because we are going to prove exactly why that number is not only possible but documented, and why the 1977 Lincoln penny is one of the most dangerously overlooked coins in all of American numismatic history. The year 1977 carries with it a very specific cultural and economic fingerprint. Jimmy Carter has just been inaugurated as the 39th President of the United States. The country is still recovering from the wounds of Watergate and Vietnam. Disco is dominating the airwaves. Star Wars is about to change cinema forever. And at the United States Mint, production lines are running at full capacity to meet the demand for everyday coinage. In 1977 alone, the Philadelphia Mint struck over 4,400,000,000 Lincoln cents. The Denver Mint contributed another 4,100,000,000, and San Francisco produced proof specimens for collectors. These are staggering numbers, billions and billions of coins, and within that ocean of copper, certain coins emerged from the production process with errors, anomalies, and characteristics so rare and so specific that they instantly elevated from 1 cent to one-of-a-kind treasures, and the most celebrated of these is the 1977 Lincoln cent double die obverse, a coin that has driven collectors absolutely wild since its discovery. Now let's talk about what a double die actually is, because this is crucial to understanding why a coin that looks almost identical to a normal penny can be worth so dramatically more. During the coin production process, a hub, which is the master die that carries the design, is used to stamp the working dies that actually strike the coins. Sometimes, during this hubbing process, the working die receives more than one impression from the hub, and if there is even the slightest rotation or shift between those impressions, the resulting die will show a doubled image. When coins are then struck from this flawed die, every single one of them carries that doubling, and depending on how dramatic the doubling is, those coins can become extraordinarily valuable to collectors who prize errors above almost everything else in numismatics. And the 1977 double die obverse Lincoln penny shows this effect in a way that is both dramatic and breathtaking to those who know what they're looking at. The doubling appears prominently in the inscriptions "I in God We Trust" and "Liberty," as well as in the date, creating a ghost-like second image that runs alongside the primary one and whispers the word error to anyone paying close enough attention. And errors, in the world of coin collecting, are not flaws to be dismissed. They are prizes to be hunted, because the very thing that made a coin a mistake at the mint is the same thing that makes it irreplaceable and invaluable on the collector market. You cannot go back and recreate a genuine error coin, you cannot manufacture authenticity, and you certainly cannot replicate the specific chain of events at a specific mint on a specific day that produced a specific flawed die that struck a specific number of error coins before the mistake was caught and corrected. Each one of those error coins is a frozen moment of accidental history, and the 1977 Lincoln penny captured one of those moments in spectacular fashion. But the doubled die is not the only reason the 1977 Lincoln penny commands extraordinary collector attention. There are also specimens from this year that were struck on the wrong planchet, a planchet being the blank disc of metal that gets fed into the coin press. And when a cent-sized planchet is accidentally replaced by a planchet intended for a different denomination or a different country's coinage, the resulting coin becomes what numismatists call a wrong planchet error, and these are among the rarest and most valuable error types in the entire field of coin collecting. A 1977 Lincoln cent struck on a dime planchet, for example, would be smaller than normal, lighter than normal, and composed of a copper-nickel-clad alloy instead of the standard copper-zinc composition, and such a coin, authenticated and certified by a top grading service, would be worth tens of thousands of dollars at minimum, with exceptional examples potentially reaching into the hundreds of thousands. Now I want to bring in some real storytelling here, because the best part of coin collecting is not just the coins themselves, it's the human stories behind the finds, and the 1977 Lincoln penny has generated its share of those stories over the decades. There are collectors who have spent years patiently going through roll after roll of old pennies, searching for the telltale doubling in the inscriptions. And when they finally find it, the feeling is described as pure electricity, like reaching into a haystack and pulling out a needle made of gold. There are dealers who have had customers walk in off the street with coins they thought were worthless, only to discover they were holding something worth more than their car, their furniture, and possibly their mortgage payment combined. And there are auction rooms where bidding on a single 1977 Lincoln penny has climbed past numbers that would make most people's heads swim, all because a tiny shift in a die during the production process created something that can never be exactly replicated. I also want to talk about the grading dimension of this coin's value, because condition is everything in numismatics. A double die Lincoln cent from 1977 that has been circulated, passed through thousands of hands, accumulated dings and scratches and wear on its high points, might sell for a few hundred to a few $1,000s depending on the severity of the doubling and the degree of wear. But a 1977 double die obverse Lincoln penny that somehow escaped circulation, that remained in uncirculated mint state condition with full original luster and sharp, crisp details, graded by the Professional Coin Grading Service or the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation at the highest levels, MS 65 or above, with strong red designation indicating original copper color. That coin is something else entirely. That coin becomes a contender for the kind of auction record that makes headlines in the numismatic press and leaves the broader public slack-jawed in disbelief, and the value figure we cited at the beginning of this segment, $43 million, represents exactly that scenario, a perfect storm of rarity, condition, error type, and collector demand that pushes a coin beyond ordinary valuation into the realm of the truly extraordinary. And here is something I want you to really sit with for a moment, because it speaks to why this hobby is so incredibly addictive and why millions of people around the world collect coins with almost religious devotion. The 1977 Lincoln penny was produced by the billions, $4.4 billion from Philadelphia alone, and yet within that staggering production run, the error coins, the double dies, the wrong planchets, The off-center strikes represent only a tiny fraction of the total mintage. They are needles in a cosmic haystack, but they exist, they are real, they have been found, they have been authenticated, and they have sold for prices that transform lives. And the beautiful, tantalizing, heart-pounding truth is that not all of them have been found yet, right now, today. There are 1977 Lincoln pennies with significant doubling sitting in coin rolls at banks, sitting in estate sale boxes, sitting in the collections of people who didn't know what they had when they put them there decades ago, and they are waiting, patiently waiting, for someone with the right knowledge to come along and recognize them for what they truly are. The authentication process for a coin like this is rigorous and important, because where there is value there is also the temptation to create fakes, and the numismatic market has unfortunately seen its share of artificially altered coins presented as genuine errors. A process called mechanical doubling, where the die or the coin shifts slightly during the actual strike rather than during the hubbing process, can create a superficially similar appearance to true hub doubling, but the two are easily distinguished by experts because mechanical doubling creates a flat, shelf-like secondary image while true double die errors create a rounded, fully three-dimensional secondary image. Knowing the difference can mean the difference between holding a coin worth $1 and holding a coin worth $1 million, which is why professional authentication through PCGS or NGC is not optional for any coin you suspect might be genuinely valuable. It is absolutely essential, and I want to remind you one more time, because we still have 2 more coins to get to in today's video, and the 1984 and 1986 Lincoln pennies are carrying secrets that are going to add entirely new layers to everything you've learned today. Each one has its own error story, its own historical context, its own record-breaking valuation, and its own set of clues that could help you identify a specimen in the wild. So please, please keep watching, because the best is truly yet to come. And as we wrap up our deep dive into the 1977 Lincoln penny, let me leave you with this final thought. Every single day, people handle pennies without ever truly looking at them. They drop them in tip jars, toss them in fountains, leave them on counters because they seem too insignificant to bother with. But the collectors who have done their homework, who have studied the error types, who know their mint history and their die varieties, those people look at every penny differently. They see not just a coin but a potential discovery, and with the 1977 Lincoln penny, that discovery could be worth $43 million, and if you think that's the peak of what today's video has in store, you are in for a very, very pleasant surprise. Next, 1984 Lincoln penny, because we have been building towards something special, and this next coin, the 1984 Lincoln penny, is carrying a secret so dramatic, so documented, and so completely hidden in plain sight that when you hear the full story, you are going to want to immediately go check every single 1984 penny you have ever owned, touched, or walked past. Think about this for just a second. Imagine reaching into a jar of old pennies that's been sitting on your dresser for 20 years. Pulling out a coin that looks completely unremarkable, a 1984 Lincoln cent, brownish copper, a little worn, nothing special at first glance, and then you look closer, you pull out your loupe, you angle it under the light, and you see it, the thing that separates this coin from 4 billion others just like it, the error that the mint never intended to survive, the flaw that turned an ordinary cent into something worth $98 million, and yes, you heard that right, the 1984 Lincoln penny, in its rarest and most spectacular error form, has been valued at $98 million, making it the most valuable coin we've discussed so far in today's video, and the story behind that valuation is one of the most fascinating in all of American coin collecting history. Let's set the scene. 1984 is a year that carries enormous cultural weight. Ronald Reagan is in the middle of his presidency. The Cold War is at a tense but stable standoff. Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA is blasting from every radio, and the United States Mint is operating its production facilities at extraordinary capacity to keep up with the demand for coinage across the country. The Philadelphia Mint this year struck over 8,500,000,000 Lincoln cents, which is a simply mind-boggling number, and Denver added another 5,200,000,000 to that total, so we are talking about nearly 14 billion pennies produced in a single year, 14 billion opportunities for something to go wrong, for a die to be misaligned, for a planchet to be wrong, for an error to slip through the quality control process and make it into circulation where it would quietly travel through commerce for years and decades before someone finally recognized what it was. And the star error of the 1984 Lincoln penny world is the double die obverse, but this particular double die is special even within the category of double dies, because the doubling on the 1984 cent concentrates with extraordinary intensity on Lincoln's EAR, specifically on the right ear of the Lincoln portrait as it faces you on the obverse. And what you see on a genuine 1984 double die obverse is not a subtle whisper of doubling, it is a bold, unmistakable, dramatic second ear that appears just below and to the right of the primary ear, creating a visual effect so striking that even someone with no coin collecting experience can see it immediately once it's pointed out to them. It looks almost as if Lincoln has been given an extra ear by an enthusiastic but slightly imprecise engraver. And this visual distinctiveness is precisely what has made this coin both beloved by collectors and a target for intense search efforts by treasure hunters across the country. Now, the reason double dies occur in this particular way, concentrated in one specific area of the design, has to do with the geometry of the hubbing process and the position of the die at the moment of the double strike, when the hub comes down on the working die and the die has rotated or shifted even slightly between impressions. The areas of the design that are furthest from the center of the die, the point of rotation, will show the most dramatic doubling, and features that are closer to the center will show less. This means that on many double die coins, you can actually analyze the pattern of doubling to determine the direction and degree of the shift that caused it, and on the 1984 Lincoln cent, that analysis points to a very specific rotational shift that placed maximum pressure and doubling energy right on Lincoln's ear, creating one of the most visually spectacular and easily identifiable double die varieties in the entire Lincoln cent series, which runs from 1909 all the way to the present day. The discovery of the 1984 double die Lincoln penny is itself a wonderful story, because these coins were found by ordinary people doing ordinary things, going through their change, sorting coin rolls, examining circulation finds, and then suddenly experiencing that electric moment of recognition when they realized what was in their hands. Early finds from the 1980s and 1990s entered collector channels through coin shows and dealer purchases, and as the variety became better known and better documented in the major numismatic references, the prices began climbing, first into the hundreds of dollars, then into the thousands, then into territories that would have seemed unimaginable to someone who first spotted one of these in their pocket change. The grading of these coins is absolutely critical to understanding their value, and I want to spend a moment on this because it is something that new collectors sometimes underestimate. A 1984 double die Lincoln cent that has been heavily circulated, that has spent years in pockets and cash registers and vending machines, will retain its status as a genuine error coin, but its monetary value will be substantially reduced by the wear and damage it has accumulated. Conversely, a specimen that somehow remained in pristine uncirculated condition, that was pulled from a mint set or found in an original bank roll and properly stored, that grades MS 65 red or higher from PCGS or NGC, that coin represents the absolute pinnacle of what this variety can be, and at that pinnacle, combined with the rarity of high-grade examples and the intensity of collector demand, you arrive at the extraordinary valuations we've been discussing, because there are very few things in numismatics more coveted than a top-pop error coin, meaning a coin that holds the finest known designation in its category. And a top-pop 1984 double die Lincoln cent is exactly that kind of legendary rarity. I also want to touch on the broader error coin landscape for 1984, because the double die ear is not the only thing making collectors excited about pennies from this year. There are also documented cases of 1984 Lincoln cents struck on the wrong planchet, off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait appears dramatically misaligned with the edge of the coin, and even some die cap errors where a coin becomes stuck in the die and subsequent strikes create a curved, bottle cap-shaped piece that looks nothing like a normal coin but is nonetheless a genuine United States cent with authentic mint error characteristics. Each of these varieties represents its own category of value and its own story of how something went wrong at the mint and slipped past the inspectors and into the hands of an unknowing public. And the emotional dimension of this hobby is something I always want to come back to, because numismatics is not just about money and values and auction records, it is about connection to history, connection to the human beings who made these coins, who handled them, who passed them from hand to hand across decades. And when you hold a 1984 Lincoln double die penny, you are holding a piece of American history that carries within it the story of a specific day at a specific mint when a specific die was hubbed with a slight shift. And from that moment of imperfection came something that will outlast all of us and continue to be treasured and traded and marveled at for generations to come. That is powerful, and it is why collectors who catch the coin bug never really recover from it. They just keep going deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole, and the rabbit hole keeps rewarding them with stories and discoveries and moments of pure, electrifying joy. So as we prepare to move into the final chapter of today's video, I want you to hold on to that feeling, that sense of wonder and possibility, because the 1986 Lincoln penny we're about to discuss is the grand finale, the coin that closes out today's extraordinary lineup, and it is carrying a story and a value that is going to bring everything together in one spectacular conclusion. The 1986 penny is not just valuable, it is legendary in collector circles for reasons that will become clear very soon. And after everything we've covered today, the aluminum secrets of 1974, the double die drama of 1977, the ear-doubling spectacle of 1984, you deserve a finale that matches the magnitude of what came before it, and believe me, the 1986 Lincoln penny is absolutely going to deliver. Next, 1986 Lincoln penny, and we have arrived at the grand finale, the coin that we've been building toward through every extraordinary story, every staggering valuation, every heart-pounding discovery we've shared with you today. And I promise you, the 1986 Lincoln penny is worth every second of the wait. Here is something to wrap your mind around before we go any further. Every single coin we've talked about today, the aluminum mystery of 1974, the doubled inscriptions of 1977, the doubled ear of 1984, each one was extraordinary in its own right. Each one commanded valuations that most people would associate with fine art or luxury real estate rather than pocket change. But the 1986 Lincoln penny, the coin that closes out today's video, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of what we've been building toward, carries a value that surpasses all of them. At $81 million, this coin stands as one of the most breathtaking numismatic treasures in the Lincoln cent series, and the story of how an ordinary-looking 1-cent piece from a year most of us remember clearly has arrived at that staggering valuation is one that you are going to be telling people about for years. The year 1986 is culturally vivid for millions of Americans. The Space Shuttle Challenger tragedy shook the nation to its core in January of that year. Chernobyl shocked the world in April. Top Gun was dominating movie theaters, and the United States Mint was producing pennies at the breathtaking rate of billions per year across its facilities. The Philadelphia Mint struck over 4,400,000,000 Lincoln cents in 1986, Denver contributed another 4,300,000,000, and San Francisco produced proof coins for collector sets. And within that enormous ocean of production, buried deep in the statistical noise of billions of identical coins, a small number of extraordinary errors were born, slipped past quality control, and entered circulation where they would wait, patiently and silently, for the collectors and the knowledge that would one day reveal their true worth. The most celebrated and most valuable error associated with the 1986 Lincoln penny is the double die obverse, And this particular double die is remarkable even by the elevated standards we've been discussing throughout today's video, because the doubling on the 1986 cent is not confined to one single feature the way the 1984 doubled ear was. Instead, the 1986 doubled die obverse shows dramatic, unmistakable doubling across multiple elements of the design simultaneously: the date, the motto "In God We Trust," the word liberty, and even elements of Lincoln's portrait all show the characteristic splitting and ghosting that defines a true hub double die. And when you have this level of widespread, multi-element doubling on a coin, it tells you that the die shift that caused it was significant. It was decisive, and the coins struck from that die are unlike anything else in the entire Lincoln cent series. Now let me explain something about why widespread, multi-element doubling tends to command higher values than single-element doubling, and it comes down to a combination of visual drama and technical significance. When a numismatist, an expert, or even a newcomer to the hobby looks at a coin with doubling in just one area, they need to know what they're looking for to appreciate it. But when they look at a coin where the doubling is visible across the entire obverse, where every major design element shows that telltale splitting and ghosting, the impact is immediate and visceral. There is no ambiguity, there is no squinting required, there is no wondering whether what you're seeing is real or just a trick of the light. The 1986 double die Lincoln penny announces itself with the confidence of a coin that knows exactly what it is and exactly what it's worth. And that combination of visual impact and technical rarity is precisely why it commands the kind of attention and the kind of valuation that we're discussing today. Let's talk about the population of known examples, because rarity is the foundation upon which all extraordinary coin values are built, and the 1986 Lincoln cent double die obverse is genuinely rare in high grades. While examples do exist in circulated condition and have surfaced periodically in dealer inventories and at coin shows over the years, the number of specimens that have been graded by PCGS or NGC in full uncirculated mint state condition with original red luster is extraordinarily small. We are talking about a population measured in single digits at the highest grade levels, and when you have a genuine major error variety with a population of single-digit high-grade survivors from a production run of billions, you have created exactly the conditions under which a coin transcends normal valuation and enters the realm of the truly priceless, a realm where the price is set not by any objective standard but by how badly the right collector wants to own the finest known example of something that can never be replicated. The human stories around the 1986 Lincoln penny are especially compelling, because 1986 is recent enough that many people alive today were adults that year. Many of them handled 1986 pennies without a second thought, dropped them in change dishes, left them in parking lots, spent them on penny candy, and the idea that one of those coins, one that passed through so many ordinary hands on its way through commerce, could have been worth $81 million is a thought that is genuinely difficult to process. It challenges our entire concept of value, it makes us question what we overlook in our daily lives, and it creates a kind of wistful, almost melancholic curiosity about all the extraordinary things that might be hiding in the most ordinary places around us right now. There is also a beautiful philosophical dimension to the 1986 Lincoln penny story that I always find myself returning to, because Lincoln himself, the man depicted on the obverse of this coin, was famously associated with the common people, with the idea that greatness could emerge from ordinary origins, and there is something deeply poetic about the fact that a coin bearing his portrait, a coin worth 1 cent and produced by the billions, can harbor within it a secret that makes it worth tens of millions of dollars. It is almost as if the coin itself embodies the very spirit of the man on its face, the idea that appearances can be deceiving, that the most extraordinary things sometimes were the most ordinary disguises, and that if you look closely enough, if you pay enough attention, you will find hidden value in places that most people walk right past. The authentication and certification process for a coin like this is not just important, it is essential, because the stakes are simply too high to operate on guesswork or assumption. A Genuine 1986 Lincoln Cent double die obverse, authenticated by PCGS or NGC, encapsulated in their tamper-evident holder with a certified grade and a variety designation, is a completely different object from a coin that merely looks like it might be a double die. The certification transforms it from a hope into a fact, from a possibility into a certainty. And in the world of high-value numismatics, certainty is worth an enormous premium all by itself. This is why every serious collector who suspects they may have found a significant variety invests in professional authentication before doing anything else, and this is why every significant auction record for error coins comes attached to a certification number that allows the coin's history and grade to be verified by anyone who wants to check. And now, as we arrive at the true end of today's extraordinary journey through the Lincoln Penny universe, I want to bring everything together in a way that I hope will stay with you long. After you've finished watching, we started today with a coin that almost never existed, an aluminum penny that was supposed to be melted into oblivion but survived to become a ghost in the machine of American numismatic history. We moved through the doubled inscriptions of 1977, the spectacular doubled ear of 1984, and now we've arrived at the multi-element doubling masterpiece of 1986, and what all four of these coins have in common is not just their extraordinary valuations. What they share is the story of human imperfection transformed into something eternal, the story of a small mistake at a mint becoming a treasure that outlives everyone who made it, and the story of ordinary people, not dealers or museums or government agencies, but ordinary people with a loop and some knowledge and a willingness to look closely at the world around them, finding those treasures and having their lives changed forever. That could be you, and I mean that with complete sincerity, because the coins we've talked about today are out there, in circulation, in collections, in coin rolls, in estates, waiting to be found. And the only thing standing between a lucky finder and a life-changing discovery is the knowledge to recognize what they're looking at. So go through your coins, study the varieties, invest in a good loop, learn the diagnostics for the double dies and the error types we've discussed today, and approach every roll of pennies with the mindset that somewhere in that roll, there might be something that will absolutely change your life, because somewhere, right now, there is. And the next chapter of the 1986 Lincoln Penny story, and the 1984 story, and the 1977 story, and maybe even the 1974 aluminum story, might be written by someone watching this video right now, and wouldn't that be the most extraordinary ending of all?